Hi, it's Kristen, and this is another edition of Feminist Friday. For this episode of Feminist Friday, I am going to be reading The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. This is one I originally heard of a few years ago. It was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2023. That was when I first heard of it. I eventually bought it, thought it sounded really interesting. The premise is that we have our main character, Geeta, and she is believed by the community that she lives in to have killed her husband. Her husband disappears, there's no trace of him, no one knows what happened to him, so a rumour starts that she killed him. She didn't, but she lets everyone believe that because they leave her alone and they don't bother her because they're kind of scared of her. So she lets them think that she killed her husband because it doesn't really affect her. But then her neighbour comes to her house and says, "Hey, you killed your husband all those years ago. I want to kill my husband and I want your help." And that's where things kick off and obviously start to get very complicated for Geeta. That premise just sounded really fun. I really feel like reading this book, Bandit Queens, is an example of reading a book at the right time, because I actually started The Bandit Queens last November 2024. I was on a work trip and I was like, what book do I take with me? And I'd been wanting to read The Bandit Queens, so I took it on my trip. And I was like, I can read bits before bed, or like when I wake up in the morning, when I'm not busy with like all the service users and doing everything on the holiday. And I started it one night and I think I read like the first chapter and I liked it. I did like it, but I just wasn't compelled at that point to read more than a chapter. I wasn't like, I really want to pick this up. Like, it's my nice, like, little quiet moments. Like I said, before bed or in the morning. It wasn't like something I really wanted to be getting into. I think it was just the wrong book to take on holiday with me, to be honest. And also, like, I was so busy and so tired on that holiday. It was more sort of like not reading anything. Like, this isn't a holiday to read on. And so I came back from that holiday and I was like, I don't want to continue with the Bandit Queens. And I was like, I'm not going to force myself through this and end up like not enjoying it as much as I potentially could, because I'm making myself read it. So I put it down and I didn't pick it up again until like half a year later. But now, like, it's still very readable like I thought it was last time, in terms of like it's interesting, and the way it's written is engaging. But this time I feel like I'm in it, I'm invested, I really want to see what's going to happen. I'm not like, I don't really want to pick that up right now. I'm like, what's going to happen next? So truly a case of like, right book, right time this time round. So yeah, I'm excited to keep reading, and I'm glad I didn't force myself through it before. Oh, don't mind the balloons. I'm just currently tidying things away from my birthday, which was recently. I'm really enjoying Bandit Queens and how like complex the female characters are in terms of like being likable or not likable, and being like both at once, like doing good things, doing bad things, doing good things for the wrong reason, doing bad things for a good reason, and like their personal complexity and also their relationships with each other, and how like one character saw a certain thing one way and another character saw it a different way, and how that like one incident caused them to see things differently because maybe they had different pieces of information or they just saw things differently, but how like both of their feelings and thoughts about it are like valid and like personal to them, but they also then like acknowledge each other's view on what happened and each other, and they I just love it. I'm currently on my way to one of my book clubs. We're talking about the Bandit Queens. I really liked it, so I hope everyone else did, because one, I picked it, I suggested it as our next book and everyone voted. So I hope everyone liked it, because I don't want to be responsible for a bad suggestion and a book that no one liked. But also I liked it so much that I don't want everyone to say they didn't like it and make you go, oh, actually, was it that good? I think it was. I don't think anyone would sway my decision. I just hope everyone liked it as much as I did. So I'll share like my full wrap up thoughts, I think tomorrow after we've discussed, because I think it'll be interesting to share my thoughts with you, but also what the other people in book club thought. Like maybe they have different viewpoints that would be interesting to share. But yeah, I will update later. The last clip is me on my way to book club saying I hope everyone likes the book because I suggested it. Everyone voted for it. It like came top in our poll, but I was the one who suggested it and I really liked it. So I had, you know, my fingers crossed that it was generally enjoyed by the book club. Everyone hated it. There was one woman who was 7 chapters in. She hadn't finished it by the time it was book club. She was 7 chapters in, but she wasn't enjoying it and she didn't think she was going to finish it, and we sort of just talked about the whole book, so we spoiled it for her and she was like, okay, wow, that's where it goes. 2 other women had read the whole thing and said that they sort of had to force themselves to finish, and they gave it like 2.5 stars. And then my friend was only on chapter 11, again hadn't finished it in time, but she was enjoying it so far. She'd enjoyed what she'd read and she was looking forward to continuing on, and was unsurprised when like everyone else said that they didn't really like it. And there was me going, I gave it 4 stars. I was fighting for my life trying to defend this book. And then when they asked for suggestions for another book at the end, like, everyone, what do we want to be reading? I was like, I feel like I can't suggest anything. Although they did say, you know, we all voted for it, we all thought the premise sounded interesting, it just didn't live up to what they wanted for them. But I liked it, so at least it was on my physical TBR, I owned it, I liked it. But I mean, that's what makes a book club interesting. I feel like when everyone just sort of goes, yeah, we all loved the book, you know, you can have great discussions, but things sometimes are more interesting when some people liked it, some people didn't. You get to hear really differing viewpoints and find out what worked for some people and didn't for others. And like, they made points that I completely understood, and like some things I might agree with, or like I agreed with elements of what they were saying. Other things they made certain comments or points about that I could see where they were coming from, but I disagreed, just out of like personal preference. And then other things maybe they said that I just thought, nah, don't agree with that at all, and like don't fully understand the criticism, but then I think that's, you know, it's personal preference. I probably made points that they were like, oh yeah, I can see that, and I probably made points that they were like, no, I don't get that. So it's all personal preference, like I said. But it was like an entertaining discussion, if nothing else. Anyway, I liked the Bandit Queens. I really enjoyed this one. I think also I enjoyed the experience of reading it. Like, I read, I think, the first third physically, then I realised I was sort of running out of time to finish it in time for book club, so I switched to the audiobook, and I liked the audiobook, and it meant I could listen to the audiobook when I was at the gym, when I was out running, when I was doing stuff around the house that needed to be done, and I was still like fully invested in the story. I wasn't getting distracted, which was good. And I just, like, I had a good experience reading it, which potentially, you know, helped my like enjoyment of the book. I think if you have a fun time with a book, it can make you think highly of the book itself. And I had like a good time in general experiencing the story, while like living my life. But this one, I personally loved how kind of messy it was. Other people at the book club didn't, and they didn't particularly like the characters. I quite liked the characters, even though a lot of them were very unlikable. I thought they were very complex. It was messy. They had really complicated relationships with each other, and they weren't always nice to each other. Sometimes they were downright horrible to each other. But I think they had very rich, grounded personalities where they weren't all good, they weren't all bad. There was a lot of grey area with how nice they were and their morality and everything. I think that fed into me really loving when ultimately they did band together to go against these abusive men in their lives that they didn't always get on, but they were like, women, we've got to stick together, and I really appreciated that. Other people at the book club didn't love how like dark the themes were in this book, like domestic abuse, rape, just the misogyny and sexism inherent in this community and society, while also having lots of humorous moments throughout. But reading the author's note, and Parini Shroff says she revisited this idea that she'd initially had during the pandemic, and so found that during the pandemic what she wanted actually was like joy and humour to when we were going through a really dark time. And so that's why she sort of wove the humour into this book. As dark as it is, we have those dark humorous moments. And I quite enjoyed that. I do think the ending gets a little bit silly in a way, but I do overall like it as a book. I think it was fun. I think like the premise is kind of silly and a little bit wild when you read it, and I think that's what you get. I thought that. Other people in book club thought the premise was really good, and then they didn't think the book lived up to it. I thought the premise was really interesting, and then I thought what we got in the book lived up to the tone of the premise. So if you think the premise is fun, you might like it, you might not. I enjoyed the complex female characters and their complex friendships and relationships. I enjoyed the little bit of romance in here. I liked Karem as a character. And yeah, I just had a fun time with it. So I liked it. Have you read this? What were your thoughts? Do let me know in the comments below, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!